Welcome everybody. My name's Sean, CEO for Openn, been with the company for a long time. So we'll kick things off by just stepping through sort of the intention of what these training programs are for, what we're going to talk about today, and in a way we want to be a little fluid with them. I can see from the list of people that are here today, there's a good mix of people, some that have been here or used the system for many years, and some of you that might have only been here for a week or two. So for those that have been around for some time, we've run all sorts of different training sessions, webinars, interviews, all sorts of things. And so what we wanted to do was set up a fairly consistent, somewhere between every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, session, which is structured in a way that it's an open forum. And we're going to take questions from anybody in the audience who has, issues that they're trying to work through with a specific listing, questions, complex through to just really simple things. There's really no stupid questions, I suppose. Yeah, and we really want to try and give agents and their teams insights around the ways that you can use Openn to your advantage. There'll be some things you're probably unaware of. We're going to try and cover new stuff. We'll give you some insights around new features and improvements that we're making. And each session will try to focus on a few core things which will hone in on particular issues we're seeing come up all the time with agents, and also other feature sets that just through the evolution of the platform maybe you haven't had a chance to cover off on. So it's a pretty relaxed session. We will potentially, if someone asks a question, if you just want to pop them straight into the chat, I'll pick up on them. And it's just myself today, so if I'm just finding my way around the system to locate things, just bear with me. But any feedback's really useful. So if you'd like me to go slower, or if you found value out of more questions from the floor, that sort of thing, then yeah, any feedback's is really helpful. So let's kick things off. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about some of the basic settings. We're going to jump in and show some screens around your profile and your agency settings, just to make sure it's all set up so it's professional and looks the right way, and also it's best practice in terms of the way that you're going to receive notifications, that sort of thing. There's some new things that have come through as well, which will be worth focusing on. After that, we're going to talk about inviting a seller, the benefits of inviting a seller, and how you can determine what level of visibility you may wish to provide to your seller. A lot of these things are determined by you as an agent, your process, how you like to control the narrative, and obviously the capability of your seller as an individual. We're then going to jump into some discussion around creating urgency with buyers. So obviously we're in a different market than what we were, say, 6 months ago, and that's sort of across the board. And so we want to just try to give you some tactics, some techniques, and some thought around things that may give you some useful insights around how you can get a buyer to take action. There's some things that you can set in the Openn platform which can help to evolve that, and there's some changing guidance that we've actually evolved since the market has changed. We'll then go to open floor. So as I said, if you have any questions, anything specific you want to cover off on, whether it's related to the topic that we're talking about, or if it's just something particular to your own campaign, really welcome anyone to chuck them in the chat, and yeah, we'll do our best to kind of cover off on as many as we can. So please feel free to drop them in there. And yeah, we'll try to cover them off, and hopefully they're helpful to other people. So that's basically the flow of things. Just to kind of recap for everybody, maybe there's some people that are new here. Openn fundamentally started as an auction platform. It's evolved significantly to be fairly comprehensive offer management platform. And so what we're doing is, our objective is to help agents to sell more property, in essence. And the way that we can help you to do that is to have everything in one place, try to remove fatigue around different systems and jumping between different applications that we all have, and deliver the best possible outcome in the fairest possible way, and uncover new opportunities for listings. What underpins all of that is ensuring that we're saving you time and we're giving an experience to people that is better than perhaps a more traditional process. And so that's the fundamentals of what Openn's all about. And of course, there's quite a lot to the platform where, like many platforms, you won't always use every element of it. Some do. Some prefer to have their own process, say for contracts, etc. But yeah, it's definitely come a really long way in terms of the ease of use, how intuitive it is, and the flexibility in how you can utilize the various features, regardless of your situation, your market, your property, your specific campaign, so that you can get the best possible result and the best possible experience for all of those people that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to jump straight into some settings. So I'm going to share my screen here and we will kick off. So hopefully that's showing for you guys there. Okay, so what we're going to do is jump across to this this profile here. So this is Acton Bell in South Perth and Victoria Park. So anybody that's an agency admin will be able to navigate to the top menu here, and you'll be able to go to your agency settings, and you'll see these tabs across the top. And effectively, this is where you can update your agency and make sure things are set in the correct way. So to start off with, obviously filling in all the information here is useful because it's going to populate all the things that a buyer or a seller might see on a specific listing. We can set up various branding colors so that the way that your brand presents itself, say for instance on your agent link, which I'm going to show you here, sort of looks the best it can. So this is an example of an agent link. This is the most popular avenue for agents sending links to buyers to get them involved in campaigns. The benefit is that it's evergreen. And what that means is this link will always be the same and it's automatically being updated with whatever properties you have listed for sale. Point that I'm making here is that we've got a nice green banner across the top and 90% of people are going to open this on their phone, so it'll sort of fit to that shape, and that green banner is controlled by what you put into here. So in this case, a green logo with white text, and then matching that color kind of gives you the best possible look and feel. So if you want assistance with that, let us know. It's pretty cool. You just click on this and then the eyedropper, and then you can actually match it directly from your logo. Or you can type in your exact hex code or whatever it might be. I won't labor this one, but for anyone that is using Vault, I've reached out to a number of you. We've recently done an enhanced integration. For anyone that's not with Vault, of course, the question will be, when is our CRM going to have the enhanced integration? We are working on AgentBox, which is called Repeat Sales now, and then we'll be doing Rex as well. So they're on foot and we're working towards it. We just did Vault first because it's the biggest in terms of the users on Openn, most of them with Vault. Just really quickly, what you can see is that we generate a token out of the back end of your system, and it enhances the integration beyond the XML basic feed that almost everyone has set up already, in so much as we can feed more data into Openn, and we can also put more data back into your CRM, which most agents and agency owners understand is a really solid value add because we're enriching your database with data that helps to create more opportunities. So fundamentally, what this will do is just feed in additional information like your seller's information, the title information. You can see we're importing specific documents and then we're making them automatically public if they're on the e-table. We can also feed back buyer data to Vault. So it's just, again, enriching that automatically. We can export any of the observers and tag them in a way that when they feed back into your CRM, you know what it's about. And then we can also import attendees. So most people are checking people in at the front door via their CRM. Many people use Vaults, for example. And the benefit that this component of the integration offers is that you can automatically have those people be imported into a list on your campaign. And what that does is a few things. It means that we've got a single view of anybody that we've met at a home open, through to did they join as an observer, through to did they make an offer. And naturally that adds a whole bunch of advantage because you've just got a single place where you can see all of the sort of intent from the point at which you have launched a property. And furthermore, in about 2 weeks, there is a feature coming which is going to allow you to SMS people. So to start off with, you're going to be able to send a broadcast message, save templates, etc. And that means that it's going to be much easier for you to engage with any person that you've met from the point at which they've come to a home open through to maybe making an offer, set templates and send text messages to those people for various reasons. You know, we've received an offer, we've set a deadline, we've accepted an offer, all these sorts of things that just help you to make quick and easy communications, which of course is paramount to being a successful agent. So that's coming. The SMS feature will, there'll be a credits included in pretty much all plans. So you'll be able to use that without having to pay any additional fees at this point in time. And you'll be able to save templates and that sort of thing. It will come from an open number initially, but we are looking to evolve that so that you can actually send from your own number, and you'll be able to send from your own phone as well. So like everything with product, we sort of release it in stages, but naturally, once for Vault people specifically, huge value add because you've just got a really easy way to communicate with people and give them updates about what's happening above and beyond what the open system is already doing as standard. So if you are with Vault and you're yet to set this up, please reach out. It's really easy to set it up. We just go back and forth on making sure it's all categorized correctly. And yeah, it just means you're saving time, you're enriching your database, and life's easier because you can communicate to people easier. So for everybody else, we are working on it. We know that it's a top priority and there's a lot of people eager to get the two-way sync set up with their CRM. So yeah, we'll let you know as soon as they're available with those other CRMs beyond Reap Sales and Rex. We'll start looking at all the others, and we just do it based on the volume of users, basically. So that's that. With your contracts tab, this needs to be filled in because it will help to populate your contracts. So if you're not using contracts, it's not a big deal, but this information populates a contract, and then we can navigate different ways of how we fill those contracts out. We go through that on a one-to-one basis with you guys, and it allows us to ensure that it's going to be fit for purpose. You know, the major objective really is that we are looking to, in effect, take any offer, populate a contract, and have it ready for e-signing within, in some cases, 30 seconds. And so, yeah, if it's something you want to explore, again, please reach out to us. We can go through a setup process with you and we can show you how we can optimize your contract to match your existing process. Every agency is a little different. Some like to have, you know, the admin involved and they do some sort of pre-setup, and then we have other agents that sort of are managing it themselves. In any case, it can all be done through the open system. You can also technically send any contract to anyone anytime now. So up under the contracts tab here, you're able to upload any document and issue it to anyone for signing. So ultimately what we're trying to get towards is one system. You can SMS people from it, you can do all of your contracts from it, and effectively, in an ideal world, you're getting towards a position where you can start to remove some subscriptions that may no longer be required because you've got it all under one roof. So yeah, again, if you would like us to step through that with you, then please reach out and we can help out. We just got a question here from Dino. Sean, can you clarify with the CRM integration does that sync all email inquiries for the specific property within the campaign? Yeah, so Dino, basically what happens is you launch a property, you start to get inquiries from people. Those people will still be housed within your Vault system. The point at which Openn comes into play with Vault specifically is after they turn up to a home open. So Openn isn't necessarily there to kind of manage inquiry. It's there to capture intent from people that turn up to a home open and then have a really easy flow of sort of converting them from someone that turned up, maybe they're nosy, and we'll get them to join as an observer, which we'll talk a little bit more about as a a really great tool to use in your repertoire to give people a place to sort of sit if they want some think time, and also extract extra information off them. And then sort of follow that funnel from you've turned up to the home open, have you observed or not, and then have you made an offer or not. So hope that answers your question, mate, but feel free to ask more if I haven't covered it. Okay, so notifications here. This is useful if you would like to, perhaps you want to receive notifications from people in your team, and you want to just be on top of things as a principal or a sales manager or something like that. So you can actually add anyone into this list here, and then you're going to be receiving all notifications from all other reps in the office. This is where you can manage your members. You're going to see that you have a list of all the people that are currently part of that agency. They're going to have different roles. And if you wanted to remove someone, it's really easy. Let's say we wanted to Brad left or something. We could come in here and we could just discontinue his status. And we can also, under his settings, just remove him from the agency. So if you want to clean that up, you're more than welcome as an agency admin. So that's how that part of the system works for agency admins. Okay, now let's jump into an actual agent's profile. And there's some new things that have been set up here, which are useful to know. So this is Shane's account. You can see he's sort of pretty much had every role type that you can imagine over the years. These get applied automatically, many of them, if you've been an observer on another property, this sort of thing. He's an agency admin. He's also an agent. Middle name doesn't really matter. With your settings, this is where you can customize your agent link. So just earlier, I showed you Chris's link. This is Shane's link. And so it just means you can customize whatever it might be at the back end. Obviously, Shane's sold all of his properties, so that's why it looks like that. So if you haven't got that set up, I really encourage you to do that. We should be looking at edit account, and you should be able to see agent link on the screen. So if anyone can just type and let me know if that's there, that would be useful. So we can see, yes, all good, cool, thanks. Cool. All right, so that's how you can set up your agent link. And it's pretty easy to remember. You can also access it from your main menu, and you can also access this link on every property under the share button, which I'll show you in a sec. Now, in terms of these settings down here, I'll quickly explain them to you. So this is relatively new. I'd say it's probably 6 months old. There will be certain situations in any campaign where a buyer wants to pull out. And sometimes they want to pull out for legitimate reasons. That might be that perhaps they found another property or their circumstances have changed. There'll also be certain situations where people are trying to change their terms or they're trying to manipulate things. What this does effectively is just puts the control back into your hand. So if a buyer is trying to withdraw, it's, in our view, best to have this switched on because it comes through as a request. And so the request comes to you, and then you're able to, before it being withdrawn and showing as withdrawn on the timeline, which in some circumstances could upset your momentum, it just allows you an opportunity to have a conversation with that buyer. If there was something that they're wanting to change or improve on their terms, then you can go in and edit those terms for them, which is far more advantageous than having someone show as withdrawn and then come back, because other buyers might see that and start to think, oh, I can pull out and come back. So it just means that you're in control. So you can cancel their request or you can leave it as pending. I think there's a defendable position from an agent's perspective in some circumstances to not process a withdrawal. And the reason for that would be, you're coming into the pointy end of a campaign, somebody pulls out for a legitimate reason, you didn't have a chance to get in contact or review it, and so you left it as pending, which is in some ways comparable to a traditional campaign where somebody pulls out and, you didn't necessarily go and broadcast to everybody that someone was no longer interested. So I think it's fairly defendable. This does go both ways though. So transparency also works with your seller. If you choose to invite your seller, which we're going to cover off in a sec in terms of the levels of access that you can provide to a seller and the ways that you might want to think about giving them access, of course, in a market where we're a little bit more challenged, it's really helpful to have your seller involved in the campaign. As a general rule, I think, outside of a situation where the seller is not particularly tech savvy or it's a difficult circumstance, I think it's in almost all cases a huge advantage to have your seller involved in your campaign and invited. And as they see people withdrawing, it's helping them to understand that, we may have got close to where the market is seeing value in the property. So it just helps to condition them and get a sense of reality around needing to make a decision. So I always suggest switching this on. You just navigate to my profile, go to my settings, and then switch that on. Inviting the seller automatically, despite me saying I think that you should invite a seller in almost all circumstances, I still would suggest keeping this switched off. The reason for that is I still think that it makes sense to determine, based on the capability and capacity of the individual, whether or not you should invite them and be able to determine that at the property level. There are some agents that just by default want their seller invited, and as such tick this on because it just means there's one less thing they have to click. So that's really all that controls. Your agent details and license number is really just a safeguard, and we make sure that obviously you're a real agent. Only real agents can use this platform, so that's all that is. And then in terms of your profile, this shows up when buyers are searching for agents on the Openn website. So they can find agents that use Openn. Perhaps they've had an experience where they saw an excellent result, and so you can choose to update the information in here so that effectively you're choosing what you're displaying to people that might be searching for you, a little bio, the types of areas you service, that sort of thing. So that's kind of a fundamental run through of the settings here. If there's any questions, please shout out. Okay, your notification settings. There's some new things here. Hopefully when I change that screen, it's still following along. So we're looking at notification settings now. What we can see here is a bunch of different, thanks Nicole. So we can see a bunch of different settings, and I'm going to explain them sort of pretty quickly, but again, shout out if anything's unclear. For the most part, you're going to receive notifications from Openn that are going to be email notifications or push notifications. Push means it's going to come to your native app if you've downloaded the app to your device, whether that's Android or iPhone. You need to make sure your settings in your phone allow for the notifications to come through because we can't override that. And then SMS notifications are really limited to just a couple of situations like a new buyer joining, that sort of thing. They're relatively, there's not too many SMSs that come through as notifications. If you're an agency admin, you can request to receive all invoices as well if that's useful. So you can tick that on if you are an agency admin, and that would be helpful. Around your notification frequency. So this allows you to control the types of notifications and how often you receive them. And the way this is set up pretty well is close to what I'd recommend as best practice. So an incomplete offer means that someone's just started an offer. It means that they've started to put in some information which would allow you to make contact with them. So the basics being their phone number and an email address. And at that point, it'll immediately tag you and notify you on the basis you choose an individual update that someone's starting to make an offer. When a person is submitting an offer and it stalls, which can happen for a range of reasons, they're distracted, they need to ask a partner something, whatever, the system will chase these people up for you on your behalf and just encourage them to come back and complete the rest of their offer so that you can process it. Sometimes there's something really fundamental missing there. And really the reason that we've done it this way is because we prefer you to have the information and then decide to act on it, or allow the system to chase up if what they've put forward was, incomplete and really, that there's not enough there for you to chase. Obviously, in a slower market, any sign of intent is valuable. You are still occasionally going to get situations where people don't put in much information at all, and that's typically in a situation where they're just trying to see what they can find out by getting so far. So That's how incomplete offers work. I always recommend having it as an individual update because you'd like to know as soon as an offer is being started. Naturally, because we notify you immediately, it would be slightly creepy to call someone right away because they sort of feel like you're watching them or something. So keep that in the back of your mind. Give them a little bit of breathing room and then know that they are going to be followed up. But you're obviously more than welcome to pick up the phone and help guide them through completing the rest of their offer, which again, I can show you on how to do in a campaign setting in a sec. Your pending offers means that they've filled out everything that's set as a mandatory field in your default form. So as a standard practice, anybody that's a new agent with Openn agency, etc., we go through a process of ensuring that your default form is capturing all the information that's important for you to understand the offer and the individual. If you haven't done that, please let us know because we do have some recommendations on additional bits of information and approaches that you can take that would best fit your style and approach. So whatever's marked as a mandatory field is required to be submitted. Once it's been submitted, then it will come through as a pending offer. And really that means it's sitting with you to review it, have a look through, make sure there's nothing untoward, nothing that needed further conversation, and gives you a chance to push back. So if someone puts in a really low ball offer, it gives you a chance to push back and say, look, unfortunately, that price at that level is not something we're happy to progress with, but if we can bring that up to a more reasonable level, we can let you in. So the other benefit of having the offers that come through in a pending state is that your seller won't see them. And this is quite deliberate. It's there because you need to ensure that what you're putting into the system is real, legitimate, and I suppose that the other side of the coin is that there may be a situation where, or many of you may have a situation where you have a seller that still thinks their property is worth what it may have been 6 months ago. And so to run sort of an indicative, Mr. Agent, I think our property is worth $1 million. And naturally, your view of the market and your experience would tell you that it's probably more like 900,000 would be an excellent result. But of course, you want to give confidence to that seller that if the offer's out there, then we'll find it. So offers start coming in. If the offers are down around 900,000 or really any level that you're sort of broad strokes comfortable with, we want to register or progress those people as soon as possible. It means that they're in the system, the buyer count increases, they've got a paddle and they're actually able to participate further in the sale. If, however, an offer was to come in and it's like $1,050,000, obviously that's awesome, but you want to make sure that that offer is real and legitimate in some circumstances, or I would argue in more circumstances than before, you would want to take that offer directly and quickly to a contract to formalize it. So then you avoid being in damage control with your seller. They see an offer at $1,050,000 and they're like, I told you so. And then they've refranked their expectations to 1.1 million, which can be a bit of a disaster. So it's just to protect your downside. It means you're still in control and everything that your seller sees, you're still confirming is legitimate, I suppose. Okay, so progressed offers, I don't actually suggest making an individual update. Maybe the reason Shane's doing this is because his team assists him with progressing buyers and he wants to be notified. If you're doing it yourself, then I would just make it a daily summary so you just get a snapshot of what's occurred by the end of the day. In terms of offer and bid increases, Shane's obviously had a couple of crazy campaigns where, maybe this got a bit annoying or something like that. So he doesn't receive any. For the most part, I think it's worthwhile having individual updates, particularly if your seller's involved, just because you want to be on the same page with them. And also, it's a good thing. You're seeing offers increase. So normally I'd suggest individual updates for that one. With withdrawals, of course, I think it makes sense to change this to individual updates. I'm going to do that on Shane's behalf, just because I only just switched on the setting for him earlier. Of course, you want to know when someone wants to pull out and pick up the phone and see what you can do to corral them to stay in or update their settings or whatever. So hopefully that explains how that all works. There's a few new settings down here. So an attendee check-in, we do have a tool within Openn that allows you to register people at your home open. If we have time, I can step through it today and I can explain a little bit about how it works. It's of particular interest to people that are with Vault because we can feed all of those check-ins back to Vault And we have the added advantage of asking additional questions. Again, the ethos at Openn is always trying to find opportunities to get a 1 + 1 = 3 outcome, meaning at every juncture where you're meeting someone, wouldn't it be nice to just ask them if they want to buy the house and if they've got a property to sell themselves? And so Openn allows for this because there's a value exchange and we're a platform. If you were standing at the front door of a home Openn and the person came through and you said, "Do you want to buy it? And do you have a house to sell?" They'd be like, "Whoa," obviously probably turned off. But by giving them value, by giving them access to the platform to track it, to sort of have some time to think about it without necessarily needing to talk to you directly, in return, we can ask questions. And so I can step through that, but basically, I would suspect you don't need to tell yourself when somebody's checking in. And so I think a daily summary is going to be more than adequate, if not none at all. But if you had somebody in your team that was checking someone in, you might want to change that. These two here are new, so it's worthwhile jumping into your settings and updating them if you haven't done them already. So new observers and their responses. So up until recently, we would only send a notification if an observer joined and they said yes. So when they join as an observer, they have to answer 2 questions. Are you interested in buying this property? To which they can say yes, no, or maybe. And do you have a property to sell yourself? To which they can say no, not yet, or yes. Up until recently, we would only send you a notification if someone had indicated not yet or yes to that question. We wouldn't give you a notification if a new observer joined. And quite a lot of agents said, look, it'd be good if we just were notified if observers were joining, because naturally that can give us some insights on people that may be interested in progressing to make an offer. So we've changed that setting so you can now receive an individual update when an observer joins, and within the content of the email, we'll tell you the answers to their questions. So my guess in a slower market is it will make a lot of sense to turn this into an individual update. If you were in a more crazy campaign, busy market, you might want to just go with a daily summary. But yeah, I'd probably suggest best practice is to tick that as individual updates and change it if you find it's frustrating. The last one here, which again is new, is that when you generate a contract to be signed, naturally we were sending a notification that would say it's been signed, and then you as the agent could act on, printing it off to present it to the seller or sending it to the seller for them to co-sign it via our e-signing process. We have added this, which allows you to also be notified if somebody has viewed the contract. So we just had feedback that would be useful. So I'd kind of recommend setting those two as individual. If you're not using the contracts tool, then obviously it's not going to send any notifications to you. Dominic said, under team notifications, how to add an email address. When I try to add user, it says nominated user is required. I'll have to check that for you, Dominic. I suspect it might be because we need to make sure your access is correct. So yeah, I'll pick that one up after with you, mate, and I'll have a look into it for you. Okay. Dino's asked, is there an observer request function where you can turn on the observer button by default? Good question, Dino. I've asked for it because almost all agents that are using Openn want to have observers switched on. I'm pretty sure it's going to be released soon because it's going to be a huge value add. It's just one less thing that you have to think about with each campaign, and it's a bit of a no-brainer. So under my settings, I think, where would it be? Here, we're going to add it here. So at the individual agent level, it's going to be switch observers on from the start for all campaigns, and then you can toggle that on. So yeah, it's coming. It makes a lot of sense. In the interim, you just have to remember with each campaign, when we're going through a setup, to make sure we switch observers on. So hopefully that answers that question, mate. So that's basically some fundamental settings that are useful to know about. Make sure you got them right. And if you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, a couple of new things in there. Hopefully, again, it's just giving you the information that you need at the tip of your fingers. So that is a bit of a cover off on some of the fundamentals for your profile. If we jump into an actual property campaign, I'll use the training environment for this. Again, hopefully when I'm jumping tabs, you're still seeing that. It should have a big yellow banner if anyone can confirm. Hopefully it's still showing that. I'm just going to come in and quickly explain, thanks Peter, I'm going to quickly explain a couple things around the way that we recommend setting up an individual campaign. So once you launch a property from your CRM, within a few minutes, it should come through. You'll receive an email. On the email will be a QR code, which is specific to the property. And you'll be able to find it under dashboard. The other thing that's a really helpful tool, if you're in a bigger agency and there's lots of listings and you're an agency admin, I've found it's quite helpful if you go to properties and then filter and then go to list, and then you can filter by launch date just by clicking on it. And you'll actually see, based on the most recently launched campaigns, all of them in one list. So yeah, that's a little trick I've found to navigate and find things much quicker if you're not finding them quickly through your dashboard. So particularly if they've been sold or under offer, we sort of have some logic in the background to sort of move them off your main screen, but sometimes you want to go back and have a look at them. So yeah, go to properties, go to the list function, and then filter by launch date. That's just a little trick. Okay, so when we're launching a property, naturally, there's not going to be any buyers in here as yet. There's a few things that are worth setting up with each campaign. If you're with Vault, you have the benefit of a lot of these things being automatically populated now. With others, it's fairly easy to feed it through. So always sort of suggest starting from the left-hand side. So details are going to be fed through automatically from your CRM. There's nothing really for you to do here. Same with your features, all fed through automatically. Your sellers. So if you are with Vault, then we're working on a fix, but just to flag this up front, you will have middle name always unticked because there's no middle name field in Vault, but we've got some logic coming that's going to read the legal name and take the middle names between the first and last and put it in there. Just flagging that for anyone that is using the contract feature specifically, you're going to need to remember to just add the middle name manually currently until we've got that fix in place. You will, so if you don't have Vault, then or you haven't set up the two-way integration, then you just come in and you enter the information manually into here. So you can see that the reason you enter their information in here is for a couple of reasons. And this touches on the next sort of segment that I wanted to cover off on, which is around how do we invite a seller? In what circumstances should we invite a seller? And what levels of visibility can we provide to the seller? So I always think the best way to determine if you should invite a seller is that have a default view of, yes, I should have my seller involved because I have nothing to hide. I want them involved. I want them conditioned, and I want them to be engaged in the sale and understanding the level of work that we're going through. But there are some circumstances where that's not going to be the case, or it's not the best fit for that seller, or it's an awkward circumstance. And there's other agents, which I have no real concerns with, that just say, no, I prefer to control the narrative and provide them information at my own discretion. So as a general rule, we think you should invite them. You can invite them up here. And once they're invited, you'll see once they've accepted it because it'll turn green. So we just click on invite. Right now, it just says it's been sent. It'll change to invited and green once you know that they've actually accepted that. They'll receive an email, they'll click on the link, they'll create an account using this same email address, and then they'll have access to see progressed offers that that you're happy for them to see. So I'll show you that physically in a sec. If you want to change the information around what's going to go on the contract, you can change it to be selling on behalf of a company. It's also useful if it's being done as a trust or whatever. If for whatever reason they start annoying you, you can revoke their access up here. Maybe annoying you is not the right terminology, but let's say, I don't know, we've had situations where there's been 4 siblings and they all want access. And at the moment, we can only give you access to 2 sellers. So they either need to share a login or just remove all access. And then the agent just gives everyone updates at the same time. So there's a couple of circumstances where you can think about how it would apply. General rule, invite them. It's going to give them a really good experience. They're going to feel involved and engaged, and it's going to help them to understand the realities of the market. As I say, an informed seller makes informed decisions. An uninformed seller makes uninformed decisions. So Right, your photos will be fed through automatically, as will your floor plans from your CRM. Documents are the things you want to make available to buyers. As a general rule, and every agency has a different approach to this, we think it makes most sense to funnel people after they've attended a home open directly to Openn because they're doing the things you want. They are joining as observers, they're making offers, or they're receiving updates about things that are happening with the campaign. And as such, if you don't distract them with multiple different links to your website or other places where you're storing documents and they're just on Openn, then it's trying to create the conditions you want, which is encouraging them to make an offer. So we suggest storing all of your documents in here. You can see all of these ones are currently private because this will be the place that your contracts are stored as well. But if there was a pre-contractual disclosure or something else that was appropriate to share, then the main thing to remember is once you upload them, you just tick whichever ones you want available, you click share, and you make them public. If you don't make them public, no one will see them. So it's a common mistake. We're working through a way to try and improve that. The way it's solved with Vault is that if it's on the e-table, it will automatically be public. Um, so yeah, that's where you upload your documents. When a buyer goes to click on the link after you've met them at a home open or they've made an inquiry, they click on this property, they've got three options. They can observe, they can make an offer, or they can view a listing. If they click on view listing, that's where they're going to see information about the property and the documents. So that is that. Where were we? Okay. Annexures, pretty well everyone should disregard this. If you're using it, you know why you're using it. Outside of that, ignore it. Title information will be fed through automatically from Vault. Anybody else that's using the contract feature should enter this information because it's going to automatically populate your contract and make life easy when you're trying to do a contract on a Saturday night. Your team. So anyone that's a co-listing agent should feed through automatically from your CRM. If you have agency admins and you want them to be notified about things that are happening with campaigns, you need to add them in here. If they're not added here, they won't receive notifications. But if they are added here, they will. And of course, any agency admin can still log in and access any of the listings. They just won't receive notifications. So that's how that works. Your offer form is templated. If you haven't already templated your offer form, as I mentioned earlier, please reach out and let us know because we can get this templated and structured in a way that it's going to capture the exact information that you want. And there is some new things that we've implemented recently that can help to kind of enhance the way that people interpret the information on the offer form. So again, this is the control for what is behind the make an offer button. So this is how you can control what people are filling in, what things are mandatory, what things are hidden, etc. It's always templated. So for the most part, you should never have to touch it. But there might be certain circumstances where, let's say 23 Harris Street here had some encumbrances on it, or I don't know, was tenanted. We could come in and put, yeah, okay, so I've obviously done something funny there with an X-ray, but it's an annexure or something. Anyway, you can just put in here, buyer is aware the property is tenanted. And what you're doing is just trying to uphold all of the virtues of Openn, which is be transparent and upfront with people. So that's obviously specific to this particular property. It wouldn't make sense for all properties. So that's why you have the control here. Equally, if you had, you know, a higher value property, you'd come in, I'd always recommend putting in a default amount, which is guiding people to the type of deposit you'd expect. But maybe this is a high value property, we want a higher deposit. So we'd put that in here. The other thing that we can do now is come in and add a description. So this is how the ownership of the property will be. I don't know, that's obviously a terrible example, but it just shows you that you can add more information here that's going to try and guide buyers towards the information that we're looking for. So that's a new feature as well. You can control everything here, so you can make it mandatory. You can add a description. You can set a default value. So if you know it's always going to be that one, you can just make life easy and tick it. And you can make it read-only as well, meaning they couldn't change it, which would be probably applicable in the case of a special condition. We don't want them to edit anything. We just need them to be aware that as standard, our agency adds these conditions as standard or whatever. So that's why this offer form exists here. If you're finding yourself updating the same thing over and over and over, then I recommend coming into the main menu here, going to default form and editing it. Each agency can set up their own offer form, so it's standardized. And then if individual reps like, I don't really like that, you can tweak it and have your own. So we can help, we can guide you towards best practice, and we can step through some recommendations on questions that are useful. Like, for example, lots of people add a question here, which is a multiple choice question, which is, which of these best describes you? And then they're saying things like, investor, etc., first home buyer, whatever. So if you have like a property management business, it's another opportunity to pick up if there's a property management opportunity. So yeah, that is a way to think about this. I would put this into your default form. Again, please reach out. We can give you some guidance on some best practice. There's some agents that have done really clever things for like Queensland in terms of the way that they guide people towards the various, settlement timeframes, etc. So we can give you insights around how others are doing that. Okay, is there a way we can see what the seller can see? Yes, Trina, I'm going to show you that in a sec. Thank you for the reminder. So lastly is your campaign settings. So just earlier, Dino mentioned, can we have this defaulted to switched on? Right now you can't, you need to switch it on manually. The way that we want to think about each campaign is pretty much in all cases, switch on observers. Deadlines, we are changing our opinion on it. 6 months ago, we would have said don't add a deadline. Use the deadline to create the conditions you want, which means that you can put pressure on buyers by setting a deadline really tightly, or you can buy yourself time but still give people a sense of closure, but run another home open. In a slower market, it's really useful to add a deadline, in our opinion, because it's giving you something to anchor against and giving people a timeline for how long they've got to think about it. The other thing that we would have normally not recommended to start with would be ticking these, because often it doesn't make much sense to let somebody know if they're the only buyer, albeit it's probably implied. Depending on your market, it's an obligation for an agent to notify people they're in a multi-offer scenario. But the benefit of this one is that if you tick it on from the start, basically in a slower market, as soon as you've got any observers, any offers, it's all about helping to create some momentum and having something to reference that's going to give people facts and evidence, validation that somebody else is interested in this property, and I really need to make a decision for myself. So I'd pretty typically suggest adding a deadline for, whatever time frame you think is appropriate based on your knowledge of your market, switching on observers and ticking both of these very quickly. The only difference between ticking this and not is that it's public, meaning when I come to a public page, public meaning I haven't yet logged in, I would actually see here the number of buyers and observers. And so it's just going to help to inform a buyer that we do have an offer on the table, and typically it's going to mean they're not going to lowball you, I suppose. Can't guarantee it, but it does help to give them some validation and facts about the reality of what's happening, because in this market, buyers are just hesitant, second guessing, and we need any sort of evidence to help guide them. Okay, so let's go now and show you how things look for a seller. Okay, so in here, so sorry, I've done that where I just click and don't explain what I'm clicking on. So question mark, then user guide will take you to our user guide. And then you'll land on this page. You go to agent and agency admin, and there's a whole bunch of resources and all sorts of things. In here, agent videos and tutorials is new. So if you wanted to search for something and you were looking for a basic answer, it's probably been recorded in there. Really nice short videos, plus there's words if you prefer to read. But we're going to focus on this, which is understand transparency settings. So what we've got here is basically the various settings of visibility and then the corresponding view for a buyer, an observer, and then a seller. So if you don't tick anything to start with, then what you can see here is that effectively this buyer has been progressed. Up until that point, they can't really do anything. It's sitting with you to review it. They can improve their offer from whatever their current offer is to plus the minimum increment, or they can type in whatever figure they like. They can view their terms. They can't edit their terms, and they can withdraw, which actually now says request withdraw. There's a timeline, and all it's showing is their own offers. So this is pretty unrealistic. Most people aren't going to start at 650 and then jump to 910. In fact, the agent probably wouldn't have progressed them if the real value of the property was 910 if they started at 650. It's purely to demonstrate that there might be 5 other buyers. I can't see them. I don't know anything. I'm just putting my offer in. This is a discrete offer taking process. When we tick number of buyers, now I can see that I'm up against 2 other buyers. So up here it shows there's 3 buyers, there's an observer, and I can see that there's activity from other buyers. I don't know anything about them, I don't know their prices, I just know that they are also increasing their offers like me. There's also an offer tab that's generated. We're not disclosing anything at this point. When we come down, observers will not see anything at this stage. They're only starting to see things when we turn on ranking. And you can see that once we get to ranking, here, I can just see now that I'm first, second, third. So this wasn't kind of part of the plan, but because we're here, I just thought I'd help to show people what things look like. There's a couple of warnings. Being ranked number 1 does not mean the seller will necessarily accept your offer. And also, if there's a situation where there's 2 offers with the same price, we flag it so that it's pretty obvious to everyone. Observers will start to see information at this point. They see basically the same thing. The only difference is there's no my offer tag. So fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, we can tick more things. You can reveal prices and all sorts of stuff if you think that it's going to be of benefit. But really what I wanted to show you was the seller view. So just try not to get dizzy whilst I scroll through this. Public. Yeah, okay. Okay, what sellers see. So sellers have a different role. If you invite a seller, then they see more information. They're not controlled by the visibility settings that you set in the under the campaign tab. They see any offer that's been progressed, and they obviously see all the prices because it's their house. So that's the logic. So basically, they don't see any personal details. All they see is that there's a paddle, there's a price, and then you see a yes, no conditional status. So it's fairly basic, but it does give them more visibility over offers. And again, they won't see any offer that isn't progressed, and that's obviously to make sure that what's been submitted is legitimate and real. So that's how that works. Hopefully that helps to answer the question around sellers. Now, just to go back a step, if you choose not to invite your seller, so you can add them in here because maybe you still want to be prepared to generate a contract. So you should still add them in. You have a sort of middle tier level of access that you can provide them. And how that works is under the offer comparison function. So if we go to offer comparison, you'll see there's a my view and a seller view. So my view is yours as the agent. And what it includes is personal identifying information. So it's just useful if you wanted to have an extraction of all the information that's been put forward from the various sellers and the answers, answers from buyers and what they've submitted. So you can see here it's all managed into a nice spreadsheet. You can download that as a CSV. You can also print it to a PDF, and it looks pretty good. So the other thing you can do is control what questions are shown. So like for example, offer status is hidden. Progress. This one's been asked to rejoin because for the most part, it's kind of irrelevant for the purpose of looking at this screen. But you can control whatever you like. So which of these best describes you as a custom question? There's no answers to it, so we just hide that question. So you can get it nice and tight and just basically displaying the information that you like. That's going to be even more advantageous when we're talking about the context of a seller, because a seller is going to see just information that you want to present to them, the fundamentals of here's where things are at. Now, you have a few different options of how you can get this to your seller. You can come down here and publish it. The reason we publish it just means that it's going to lock it based on the last time you published it. So if a new offer comes in, they won't see it. You'd have to republish it. And that's for obvious reasons. We don't want them to see things that we don't want them to be seeing. We can then go share, and we can copy that link and just text it to them, email it to them. We can also hit send, which will just email it for you. They won't have access to view everything. They'll just have access to view this offer comparison. If it's easier, you can just come up here and just print this. So just print it to your screen. I save it as a PDF, make it landscape under more settings. Obviously, if you're on a PC, it's going to be a little different, but just turn on all the colors and it pretty well, you can typically get it to print to 2 pages pretty easily. So then you can just download that and send it to your seller. So there's sort of 3 different levels. There's no access. There's I've added them but not invited them, and then I've sent them an offer comparison either manually via email or by sending them a link. And then there's full access, which means that they see all offers and when they have been progressed. Matt said, can we have the option to show the sellers the buyer's names, not just their paddle number? I think we've removed it, Matt, honestly, because we didn't want to give away any PII, but I think there could be an argument for having a first name. We've discussed it, and I suspect it just helps to personalize it. If that sounds like it'd be helpful, my guess is you just want first name, but let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd be wanting to cover off on. Okay, so conscious of time, gee, that went quickly. We've got a question from Trina, which says, is there a reason why buyers can't change their terms? They can, Trina, but the reason we don't let them change them at their own discretion is because we're running a process, right? Sarah's come in, she's submitted her information, which we come in to review and we can see what they've put forward. And then let's say that, I don't know what we actually put in here, it's just a test one. And she said, no, I'm not subject to finance. And then halfway through, she's like, oh, we better change that. What we've decided to do with Openn is that rather than having people come in and changing the parameters at their own discretion whenever they like, it's controlled by you because we had an agreement, we had an understanding, you're in on that basis. If you want to change it, it's fine. We have to have a conversation though, and I need to be comfortable with what you're wanting to change. So you can change it whenever you like for them, but they can't change it. You can like reject their offer and then re-invite them. The downside of that is that on the timeline, it's going to show that it's withdrawn. And so if you have visibility showing, then other buyers are going to see people are coming out and then coming back in. And then it kind of has them second guessing like what's going on and the validity of the buyers and that sort of thing. So yeah, let me know if there's more, if I've answered that. But really, the main reason that we don't let them change terms is because we don't want them changing the parameters of what's, by and large been agreed to at that time. I've had them want to tighten up timeframes and put in deposits. Yeah, so for sure. Like, so you're saying actually you want to improve terms, then the best way to do that is just to enter it on their behalf. So have a conversation with them and just say, look, Sarah, we're coming up to the pointy end. You've said 60-day settlement. Can you bring that back to 30? It's going to put yourself in a better position. If she confirms, then it's just as simple as coming in, review, and then changing it for them. So you come in here and you change it to 30. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, if there's a better way to approach it, open-minded, and we can see if there's a solution we can put in place. The other thing we can do is add notes. So, if we're in a situation we have a seller that, loves their neighbors, really wants the house to go to a nice person or something, you can come in here and you can say, nice family with Labrador or something. And then, or maybe you're making notes about, spoke to the broker. You're just showing them that you're doing the work to make sure that they're in a good position come the end of the campaign. When we go to offer comparison and we look at Sarah, which is this middle one, nice family with Labradors down here. So, yeah, one thing I suppose you could do, Matt, as an interim step, just to say first name, is you could potentially put their name in the notes. And then the question would be, can we put it higher up naturally? No, it only stays down there. So that's probably the best middle ground in the middle. Here's the notes. I don't know if you got to see that on the screen, but I put the notes in on the buyer's profile, and then you can see it on the notes here. So pretty useful if you're making notes about someone and I've seen funny notes like, guy's a jerk, for example, because let's be honest, we come across those people from time to time. you come in here and you're like, you wanted to write notes about, quite aggressive or whatever, then you don't necessarily have to show that to your seller. You can just hide that from your offer comparison. Okay, so that has been an hour already, and I didn't get to the part on different techniques we can use to um, encourage hesitant buyers. I think that's probably one of the most valuable components of the training, ironically. So rather than hold people up much longer, I will make an effort to set up another training session where we just really focus on that, because it's probably there's a whole heap of different dialogue techniques, settings, pricing parameters that we can put on our ads. There's a whole bunch of different things that can be considered that you can trial. We're also seeing a huge amount of agents coming back to using the auction side of the platform because it helps to, drive the kind of interaction with the campaign that, 6 months ago wasn't a concern. So we'll definitely cover off on those things and probably dedicate a full training session to it, because I think it'll be valuable to many people. If there is any other questions that anyone has, then I'm happy to stick around for another like 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, and take them. If anybody else needs to run, then by all means, you are welcome to depart at your discretion. So yeah, if there's any questions, shoot them through. I think I've tried to cover off on everything that's been submitted here. So yeah, just to kind of recap, what we went through today was we went through your agency settings. We went through how to make sure that everything's set up in the back end so that it's going to work effectively. We went through your profile settings. There's some new profile settings in there. Particularly, you want to switch on when a contract's viewed, if you're using the contracts feature, and switch on the observer side of things. We've taken an action around wanting to make sure that observers can be always turned on. So we can set that as an automatically turned on function. And then we've gone in and we've had a look at the ways that you can invite your seller and get them engaged in a campaign. There's different levels of access, and there's different reasons why you would have them involved or not. But for the most part, my view is having your seller involved is an incredibly powerful thing and helps keep them informed and realistic about the market. So I would be thinking about trying to add them as much as possible, invite them, and keeping them clued in as to how things are going. Last thing we were going to try and cover off was creating urgency with hesitant buyers. As I said, we will cover off that in a subsequent session, and we'll probably dedicate a full session to that, where we can actually show you various techniques and tactics that agents are using in this market. So outside of that, open floor questions, we kind of took them as they came. So I think that works, but yeah, if there's someone that has a specific issue or something in the future and they'd be comfortable sort of tabling it, and we go back and forth on techniques or ways we can maybe we could tackle those kind of problems, then more than happy. So there's a recording of this. I'll share it. And yeah, the next session will focus on creating urgency with hesitant buyers. Any feedback, love it. So thanks everyone so much for joining today. If you have anything else that you think we could cover off on, then I would be delighted to help you guys with it. So with that, we'll leave you with it, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks a lot.